Welcome everybody. I will get off the video so that the quality of it could get better. So just bear with me. I'm in the field, and so we just make do with audio. And so I go straight to telling us that I want us to take 4 things away from this meeting from the perspective of my presentation on behalf of NINAS. We need to understand where we are now. We need to understand how we got here. We also need to understand what is being done to get us out of here and what will be our role in how we get out of here. I listened to the earlier speakers, and I already heard some of the things that show that we really do not know where we are and the time we have and the nature of the dangers coming towards us. The reason I attended this meeting, my first instinct was to just leave the meeting, leave those who are still questioning whether or not what is happening, and those who are pretending that everything is happening by some kind of accident, whereas information is all over the place about how things had progressed to where they are now. You have in your midst, and that's the one speaking now, somebody who on behalf of an initiative is directly involved in what is coming out from Washington now. Trump did not just wake up to begin to cry about Christians being killed in Nigeria. There is something massive. There is a conquest agenda of the Fulani wearing the garment of jihad. They are coming from 16 different countries, and the objective is well stated. They want to take over Nigeria as a whole, killing off the indigenous owners of land. When you hear Yoruba land, it's because there's an ethnic group called Yoruba that own as ancestral the lands that we now call Yoruba land. There's Ijo land, there's Ogoni land, there's Igbo land, there's Tiv land. All throughout it, there's no patch of land that is not attached to Igala land, Doma land, Tiv land. The only people who do not have any land in Nigeria that could be described in the same manner is this Fulani. Has anybody ever been to Fulani land here? If any has been, I will be glad to hear such a person tell me where it is. I know where Ogoja land is. I know where Yoruba land is. I know where Kataf land is. I know where all the other lands that constitute Nigeria. Mark the word constitute. It is the aggregation of all these lands that became Nigeria. And the mechanism for keeping that aggregation as one political union is what the Constitution is supposed to be settling. The discussion between the owners of those lands to whom sovereignty, when you hear that Nigeria is a sovereign state, the aggregation of the sovereignties that became Nigeria, that is still Nigeria, is what Constitution is supposed to be settling. Where we are today is that the arrangements by which this union is currently in place and managed had been imposed by these forces that are bent on taking over the entire place. That was the mission of Uthman Danfodio. That was the mission of Ahmadu Bello. You heard him in 1960 saying it loud and clear. That was the mission of Muhammadu Buhari, for which he contested elections so many times. And so that Fulani conquest agenda is the big monster manipulating everything else. It is that conquest agenda that imposed the unitary constitution we have, that tie our hands to the back and put the guns in the hands of those who are on that conquest mission. They had to find a partner in the terror networks of the Middle East who were being pushed in the Middle East, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the rest of them. The US was actually at war with them, trying to get rid of them completely. They then looked for somewhere else to reinforce themselves with their eyes on their global agenda that begins with the Nigeria that they would take as their base, and the rest of West Africa as much as they can get in, Niger, Chad, Mali, all the way to Burkina Faso. And so there then came in that need to look for a sovereign space to function. It became joint venture between the Fulani coming from all over the Sahel and the sub-region, West African sub-region, and these terror networks of the Middle East. That was how ISIS will work out, how Boko Haram will become ISWAP and the rest of them. At the time Buhari came, he was already the champion of Boko Haram, being their spokesman. He was already the life grand patron of Miyetti Allah. He was already everything that Fulani will want to do to own Nigeria. And so he became the coordinator of this joint venture on the scale with all the powers at his disposal as president of Nigeria. He threw our borders open and beckoned them to come from everywhere. They were being documented as they were coming in. They were being given Nigerian passport and everything they get before you. You saw the governor in Bauchi, the governor of Bauchi the other time, Bauchi State, talking about the Fulani that belong here everywhere they come from, and whatever Nigeria has, they will get before you. You see the impunity, the audacity of the impunity of Gumi, talking to the rest of us as if we've lost our minds. We don't know what we're doing. It is that joint venture between the Fulani that wants to take your land and kill you off, and the terror networks that have to support them to have sovereign space to function. It is that joint venture that we had to go to explain to the US at the time Trump was coming. The evangelicals, I heard somebody earlier saying that Trump is not happy with the Christians in Nigeria. Yes, the evangelicals in the US, on account of what we were doing in Nigeria, to bring together the victims of this invasion, which is the indigenous nationalities of Nigeria across board. It is only the Fulani that are killing everywhere, and everybody else is their target, especially if your land is in fact, everybody's land is targeted. And so the NINAS that I speak for had identified this problem for all of what it is, identified the mechanism by which they have been able to prevail in their small numbers. It is the constitution they impose on us, away from the federal constitution we federated with. It is that constitution that is 100% responsible for every lamentation that anyone in this meeting could point to, whether it is the thief and the Berom being killed in Benue and Plateau, or the Yoruba that are being chased all over the place in Kwara now, or the Niger Delta that is crying over their resources that are being hijacked, or the fact that you can't touch gun, whereas the Fulani that is coming to kill you has gun. And so all of those things are contained, are imposed, are enabled by that constitution that they imposed on us. And so when we talk about constitution that has to change, we are saying that we must end the Union of 1914 as defined by the 1999 Constitution, which is the latest codification of what they are doing in joint venture with Britain, that we will then identify everybody on his own land such that we will decide whether we want to continue in union, and if yes, on what terms. Election is the mechanism. Election is the mechanism by which this constitution is renewed. The life of that constitution is renewed every 4 years. A few people will become governors. One person will become president. Senators will emerge. House members will emerge all the way to the states. That's where it ends. Just 1,500 persons are the most. For that 1,500 persons that want to go to enter office, willpower, what are they pursuing for themselves? Because the Constitution already defined everything that will happen to everybody else. The Constitution that prevents you from touching gun. If you are found with gun, you are executed summarily under that Constitution. Nothing will change or improve in security except that Constitution goes down. Nothing will return the oil and gas assets of Niger Delta to them except that Constitution goes down. Nothing will make election any better than you see it now, because in a federation, we should not have an INEC at all. For those who are mobilizing people to go and get their PVC, and they are not asking by which constitution will the winner of such elections govern, I am sorry for them, because in the days ahead, what Washington is about to do now had been programmed since 2020 to happen. I didn't finish the story of how the evangelicals put pressure on Trump when he was candidate to tell him that Christians are being slaughtered on this scale. And if we are to support you, please, what are you going to be able to do to stop? Trump says to them, this was before 2016, Trump says to them, if you can find anything that our laws permit by which we can engage and solve that problem, I'll be more than glad to help. And then it was the evangelicals in the US that went looking for, how that could happen. They made contacts through some of our brethren who are out there crying and shouting about the killings. They wanted a structured approach. They saw in what NINAS was saying and doing all over the place that there is already an engagement with the situation, which revolved around the Constitution of Nigeria that put the guns where they are, that put these minority invaders in the position they have been since independence. Everybody else has been at their mercy. And so that contact became basis of invitation sometime late in 2018 to say, look, come and tell us more about this thing that you have all worked on for so long. Because we also indicated to them that if they would listen to us, we're going to provide a solution to their own problem. What is their problem? They are fighting with the terror networks of the Middle East that is now reinforcing itself as a collective in the Nigerian space, aided by our own government, with Buhari as their pointsman. We say we have something that can result in the quarantine, in quarantining that invader Fulani, by we taking down the constitution that enslaved us in our space. All of us reject that constitution for our individual reasons, but we are all united in saying we never met, we never agreed to submit our sovereignty on the terms that are now contained in this constitution that render us slaves. It impoverishes us. It makes it impossible for us to do anything for ourselves. We can't even defend ourselves from people we can defeat if we all have guns. And so that invitation became basis of an emergency press conference that happened in January of 2019. I'm sure some of us might have seen some of these pictures we have seen scrolling. All of what became the CPC, the designation of Nigeria in March of 2020, it took the United States government across its branches, including legislative. It took the US government 7 months of sitting eyeball to eyeball to listen to what we had to come to tell them about how to solve this problem, because it will solve the terror problem for them and solve the enslavement and massacre problem for us. It was in that process that the US intelligence got to see that it wasn't a jihad in the manner that it had been presented all these many years. Because if you say it's a jihad, why are they killing in the numbers they're killing in Zamfara? in Kebbi, in Niger, in Katsina, now going into Sokoto towards Kano. Let's not even talk about the Northeast. We are familiar with all of how that place is, but why are they killing in predominantly Muslim areas? So the jihad is the mask they had to wear in order to function as effectively as they have functioned. Majority of the owners of the land in the Middle Belt Stretch going southwards and the southern fringes of even the far north, southern Borno, southern Kaduna, southern Kebbi, yes, all the way to Kebbi on the other extreme. They are Christians, so but their chief offense is the land that the Fulani must take for themselves. And so anybody who doesn't look well will say it is jihad. If you stop at jihad, you will not see the Fulani that is wearing that garment, and you'll be chasing after the wrong target. That was what turned the table in Washington. Washington then said, if that is the case, can you come and can your team come to face the questions of the policy makers who have been working with the wrong narrative? They say, oh, it's climate that changed, and therefore farmers, herders had to move further into farmlands, and it became a fight. Farmers and herders clash. We were invited, and I had the responsibility to face the congressional committees, both in the House and in the Senate, with the hard questions of why are we saying it is not what they had believed for 30 years plus, that it is climate change, that it is a community clash, that it is poverty in the Northeast, and all such. And so when we had succeeded in making out that case, the matter then moved to the State Department. If the US have been working with the wrong assumptions, then now that we know the truth, what are we going to do differently? That was how the State Department, the pictures you are seeing now, the one on display was at the State Department. Go to the group picture that has a senator, Chief Senator, the last picture, so that people present in this meeting, in the Christian social movement, will see, if you go from your left, you see the person in gray suit. That's Chief Solomon Asemata. I know his relationship with this Christian social movement. If you go 2-3 persons away from him, you will see Anko Briggs, Ijo. Right at his left, the one with the striped black and white native cap, the chief cap, was the chief of staff of Samuel Otom. This was in July. Of course, you see me in blue suit there, right behind in the center area, at the back line, behind the Anko Briggs. This was the State Department meeting focused on Nigeria for what the US will then have to do in the face of the truth that have been established in Congress. And so that was how they came to the conclusion that our proposition for the US to support what we had to do, to take down that constitution and quarantine these monsters, because we will unplug them from our national treasury, from being in control of our arms, from being in control of our sovereign clouds as a country. That's how that CPC designation became necessary, so that the US could have a leeway to come to deal with the matter. What happened in 2025 was that Trump came back after Biden had disrupted the entire thing. Trump, on the day after the election of November 2024, announced that he was going to restore that executive order he already signed in 2020, along with the military action they planned. That's all that has happened now. If our people will listen, put aside everything they were thinking, if anybody is still thinking that election will happen and they will elect those who come and deal with everything, the US is dealing with their national security emergency that is happening in our space. We are breeding terror that will come for them. They have done everything to get everybody to do something different. Our government is carrying on as if they are deaf and dumb. While we were fighting with these matters in Washington in 2019, they sent Oshibajo to come to lie that there were no killings taking place. Oshibajo came there, he was called a shameless liar to his face. The kind of thing that Kuka is doing now, the kind of thing many people are jumping out to say there are no killings taking place. But the US has made up its mind. If you look at the newspaper, if you look at the Vanguard, newspaper of today, let me just say one more thing. If
Yes.
you look at the front page of the Vanguard of today, you will see that Washington has dismissed what Tinubu is doing already, to say he is not even going near where the problem is. Washington is expecting something that goes to the Constitution that is the problem. Unless they do that, unless Nigeria does that across the next 1 month at the most, I'm reporting the matter as one who is privy to the file that Trump is working with. I said it on national TV on the 3rd of November, the day after he made the announcement and the military action that will follow. I went on TV to say to Nigeria, the government and the people of Nigeria, this is what is coming. This is what we must do. If we don't do it, the missiles will wake us up, and then we'll see the wisdom of our foolishness. I hope it doesn't come to that.
No, it will not. Thank you very much, Barrister Tony. Sorry, we had to put a pause on your contribution. We've already given you 6 minutes extra. No other speaker had that privilege. We were able to do that because Prophet Isa El-Buba is not in the meeting room. We want to thank you for your work over the years, your consistency, your dedication, and your commitment to this matter of resolving the constitutional dispute in Nigeria. Before I hand over to Dr. Paul Gadzama, who is going to be coordinating the contribution from the participants, if you know you have something you want to contribute, you can raise your hand. This is the time for you to have a say. Barrister Tony, what would you suggest that we do next? Now that you have given us the background, you've laid the foundation of what is going on in Nigeria, could you just, in about 1 minute, what do we do next? Will we need to convene another meeting and then focus on the solution next, or what will you suggest?
That would be my suggestion as a matter of emergency. As a matter of emergency, let us put aside all of whatever we were thinking before and come to listen like the US government listened for 7 months. Senators eyeball to eyeball, State Department people eyeball to eyeball, like you've seen in these pictures. If we do that, people will then see what can be done. That thing that Trump said you must go and do, otherwise we'll come and do it for you, but you won't like the way we do it. Everybody in Washington knows that it is the Constitution of Nigeria that is the problem. I'm sure you had somebody in the hearing that was taking place in the House. That is the hearing on Nigeria. A member of the committee said to everybody that what kind of constitution is it that allows the Fulani to roam around with assault rifles and others cannot touch any kind of gun? It was said in Washington less than 1 week ago. The video is part of what you have on this slide. Therefore, that should tell us that what Washington is expecting is something that addresses the Constitution pointedly, and it takes only an announcement for the government and to acknowledge that this is the problem, for them to commit to going to solve it. First order of business is to suspend the elections, because as long as the election is still in the atmosphere for 2027, I can assure you they will do nothing. And I can also assure you that Washington will be coming to deal with the matter on their own terms. I'm sorry if that will begin to happen before we find time to listen to ourselves.
No,
I support what you said, and we can take a session to just go to the details.
What we are going to do then, Barrister Tony, is that with the consent of everyone that is in the meeting room tonight, we shall put heads together, and as soon as possible in the next few days, we should reconvene to come and discuss specifically this matter of the Constitution, and then agree on steps that we are going to take to get the government, because like you rightly said, unless the government is compelled, they will not do the right thing. So it is time to start speaking out now. If we can do it on the platform
if we
of the
say
church,
the right thing, if we hold that meeting and say the right thing, the government will come on its knees, because they have only a few weeks left now. If they have up to 1 month, the government will come on its knees to line up behind us. But we must make that demand on them that we suspend elections in order to resolve the country. It's only that step that will put guns in the hands of those who are in that danger. Changing Musa to anything, he can only be one person in one place. Why are the people being slaughtered not the ones organizing their security? It is only the constitution that will settle that. And we can insist that we cannot be available to be killed to the last person. All of us can insist that we have to stop everything else and go and solve this problem. If we want to go to election before we come and solve it, I'm sorry that most of those who are going to get PVC now will be lying in the pool of their blood when